Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so have you ever felt like you're just sprinting on a treadmill? Like you're putting in a massive effort, sweating through your short, but when you look up, you haven't actually gotten anywhere? Well, today we are diving into the exact reasons why simply working harder is actually a trap. We're going to break down how upgrading your underlying identity is the real key, like the actual secret to unlocking sustained high performance. So if you've ever felt like you're hitting an invisible wall despite doing all the right things, stick around. This one is absolutely for you. So here's the million-dollar question. Why do talented people fail? You might naturally think, oh, it must be a lack of natural talent, or maybe just a streak of bad luck that makes people plateau. But let's look at the uncomfortable truth derived from our source material today. We're going to explore exactly why so many highly capable creators, athletes, and entrepreneurs ultimately just crash and burn. And honestly, the uncomfortable truth is that a lot of them approach life like amateurs. While they might dream of these massive mountaintop outcomes, they kind of insist on maintaining couch potato discipline. You see, the biggest high performers out there, they weren't just born with some magical advantage. No way. They simply refused to play small. They decided to actually build the stairs instead of just lounging at the bottom waiting for an elevator that's never going to come. Look, you can run as fast as you want on the hamster wheel of simply working harder. And sure, you might get lucky, you might temporarily make a bit more money, or even build some real momentum for a while, but eventually you are going to jump up and smash right into an invisible ceiling. And that ceiling, it's made entirely of your own beliefs. Why? Because, and this is absolutely crucial, you can never, ever outperform your identity for long. It just doesn't happen. That ceiling we just talked about is built from internal sabotage. It's kind of like trying to fire a rocket while you're still strapped to a heavy iron anchor. You might have all the technical fuel in the world, but if deep down you genuinely believe wealth just isn't for people like you, or if you secretly feel incapable of handling success, or maybe you just feel unworthy of greatness altogether, that emotional anchor is going to drag you right back to earth every single time. People rise incredibly fast and collapse even faster when they have the skills, but totally lack the emotional capacity to actually sustain that success. Now, we hear the buzzword mindset thrown around all the time, right? But let's completely reframe it for a second. Mindset isn't some fluffy motivational poster on an office wall. Actually, scratch that. It's way more literal than that. It is literally your structural infrastructure. It is the internal capacity that determines exactly how much success you can hold without buckling under the pressure. The way you think about yourself directly determines the exact size and weight of the life you can sustain without the whole shebang collapsing. You know, most people focus entirely on the branches of the tree, the strategy, the execution, all those shiny new tools. And don't get me wrong, your strategy and your skills absolutely matter. But your identity, that is the root system. Identity controls literally all of it. Every single decision you make, whether it's to take a really bold risk or to quietly hold back because you're scared, flows directly from the roots of who you genuinely believe you are. Because of that identity, you can have two people looking at the exact same opportunity, and they will see completely different things. Person A is playing to win. They're investing in growth, and they're building toward greatness with a clear, undeniable mission. But person B, they're just building a fortress to survive the rain. They play not to lose. They frantically protect their comfort zone, and honestly, they just want to make sure the bills are paid. Two completely different worlds. And building merely for survival, that lands you directly in what we call the normal trap. It's that heavy, tangled mess of burnout, mounting debt, chronic stress, and working nonstop without any real compass. Most people never become exceptional because this kind of average has just become completely acceptable to them. But let's be explicitly clear here. Normal is not healthy, and normal certainly does not mean successful. This leads to a massive, massive confusion between motion and progress. A lot of people are out there sweating it out, running 14 hours a day on a treadmill, checking off these endless to-do lists, and genuinely convincing themselves they are climbing a mountain. But in reality, they are just in motion. They aren't building a legacy. They are actually building a system that completely owns them. And when that illusion of progress finally shatters, it usually results in a really harsh realization. The realization of, wow, I didn't build a business, I built a prison. Just imagine someone starting a venture purely running on passion. At first, the excitement hides all their blind spots. But when that passion inevitably fades and reality shows up knocking on the door of a talented person who lacks structure, well, they are left exhausted, unable to scale, and trapped behind bars of their own making. So, what's the crucial takeaway here? It's that talent is just a pile of building blocks. Without structure, a strong breeze will eventually topple it right over. growth absolutely demands scaffolding. Every single day, highly talented people walk into competitive arenas expecting these elite professional results, but they bring amateur, disorganized preparation. We really have to wake up and realize that high performance cannot be accidental. It has to be intentionally designed. Okay, so what does intentional design actually look like in the real world? Elite growth requires building a solid temple supported by some non-negotiable pillars: systems, leadership, decision-making, emotional control, delegation, and vision. Look at top performers in literally any field. They do not rely on random bursts of motivation. No, they rely on a strict, rigid architecture of coaching and accountability because they are actively playing to win. And they build that architecture through ruthless resourcefulness. They don't just put their heads down and try to work harder. They use tools, and they actively seek out mentorship to multiply their effort. They deliberately upgrade their environment to get around stronger minds. And they obsessively study patterns to improve their own systems. Average people stay stuck simply because they try to figure the whole thing out in total isolation, which is crazy. That environment piece we just touched on, it is absolutely critical. You are either squeezed into a tight little jar of limitation, or you're flying freely in a massive ecosystem of excellence. Your surroundings shape your standards so much faster than you realize. I mean, if you surround yourself with small thinking, you are going to unconsciously normalize mediocrity. You simply cannot consistently think differently if your ecosystem constantly rewards your limitations. But when you finally step into a room where excellence is just normal, where it's the boring baseline, something magical happens. The goals and standards that previously felt completely impossible suddenly become visible right in front of you. It's like a light bulb goes on, and once you can actually see it, your belief system fundamentally shifts. Real growth almost always requires changing your environment before you can ever hope to change your results. I won't lie to you though, shedding that old identity is really tough. It's like breaking out of a heavy stone shell. Real growth requires some deeply uncomfortable decisions. It means outgrowing old relationships, moving past comfortable habits, outgrowing outdated versions of yourself, and letting go of what feels safe just to create new capacity. You have to stop protecting the version of yourself that no longer serves your future. And here is a pretty harsh reality check. Most people who say they want massive success, they actually just want their current comfortable life, but maybe with a slightly nicer couch or a newer car, right? They want familiarity with slightly better circumstances. But real growth isn't a nicer couch. It's a jetpack. It radically changes your standards, your daily routines, your emotional discipline, and your entire relationship with time. It changes you so deeply that you eventually reach this new state of absolute maturity. You become the kind of person who executes in the middle of a thunderstorm, totally regardless of how you feel that day. Success stops being about hype and podcasts and motivation, and it starts being about relentless execution. You stop trying to just feel inspired, and you actually develop the leadership to execute no matter what your emotional state is doing. And this right here is the unglamorous reality of high performance. That shiny trophy sitting at the top of the iceberg is all anyone ever sees. But greatness? Greatness is actually built in the cold, invisible mass underneath the water. It's staying disciplined when nobody is watching. It's choosing a book when everyone else is distracted by their phones. It's remaining entirely focused while others chase immediate comfort. And it's daring to think long-term in a very short-term culture. Ultimately, life just responds differently to people who are serious. The world rewards clarity, commitment, emotional resilience, and adaptability. The people who go out and create truly extraordinary lives, they aren't superhuman. They're just regular people who stopped negotiating with mediocrity, and they started operating like reaching their absolute highest potential was their own personal responsibility. So as we wrap up our time together today in this explainer, I really want you to take a completely honest look at your own life. Are you asking, what is easy? Or are you finally stepping up to ask what is required? Because the exact moment you stop seeking comfort and start demanding excellence of yourself, absolutely everything changes. Thanks so much for exploring this with me today. And hey, keep demanding the required.